How would you feel about a whole episode of Tools? Hello, Camp Mavericks. Welcome to the CampHacker podcast. I'm Travis Allison. I run a company called Go Camp Pro that does everything we can to boost the professional development of camps around the world.
Hi, everyone. My name is Chris Hudson. I'm a social worker and the camp director of Camp Highlight, a camp for children from LGBTQ families.
And my name is Gabrielle Raill. I'm one of the camp directors of Camp War, which is an all-girls camp in the Laurentian Mountains of Quebec. And I just got excited about this podcast. I forgot I was on a podcast. And then I just realized when Travis said, how would you feel about this topic? I was like, I am so excited. I need this.
And my name's Joe Richards. I'm the executive director at Pierce Williams Summer Camp and Retreat Center in Fingal, Ontario, Canada, about halfway between Detroit and Toronto. And we are part of the United Church of Canada camps. And I am ready to blow your mind.
And your pocketbook.
And
welcome to the most expensive episode of the year. Hello, everybody. Welcome to this middle of December episode. In celebration of the holidays, we're going to go to our annual tradition of doing a Tool of the Week episode for the middle of December. And so, no Tool of the Week section. It's all the Tool of the Week section. We have picked things and kind of loosely categorized them, but we'll just kind of go around the circle and we'll kind of let you know what category they fit into. My first challenge to the group was to think of something that you had bought in the last 4 months that you would recommend. So by way of reminder, tools are things that we think would help you be a better camp director. Some of these you're going to find to be like manage your life stuff, but I think that they all have some camp relevance. My first one is one for which I have a prop. So if you're watching the YouTube, hi everybody. And if you're not, then I will describe to you what I have. Unfortunately, on Amazon, they call these lipstick savers, but that's disgusting. What I have is a silicone printed mask form. So if I'm wearing a cloth mask, sometimes what makes me uncomfortable is feeling it suck into my nose or my mouth when I breathe in. And this form fits over my mouth, and then my mask goes over top of it, and it keeps it all off my lips or out of my nostrils. So it's much more comfortable to wear for long term. As if you've ever had to do a couple of hours in a mask, it helps. And you can wear it on a paper mask or a cloth mask, and it just makes it a lot more comfortable. And for Beth's other job, she works in a medical office, so she often has to wear a mask for 6 or 7 hours in a row, and she always wears them. Brings them home, we wash them, and then she takes them back to work. And they're pretty inexpensive.
If you're not watching us on YouTube, you should know it looks like a cup for your face.
It looks like a jock strap.
Yeah, it looks like a cup for your face.
There you go.
Yeah.
I was thinking that it would be inappropriate to say that, so I'm glad the two other co-hosts said it.
So
it is live.
We
are doing this live.
Wait.
If you are a listener instead of a watcher, that is probably right, except if it covers the bridge of my nose down to below my lips, that little bump above my chin.
Small cup.
There you go. And it's a beginning hockey player cup.
I'm not even going to mute myself this podcast. I'm just going to keep interrupting.
What I was going to say is go to camphacker.tv/podcast. And this is episode 136, the Tool of the Week, the annual Tool of the Week show. And we'll put the links in there to everything so you can check them out. So that was my number one thing I bought in the last 4 months. Joe, what about you?
I didn't buy it. It's things I learned in the last 4 months, and I learned this one today.
Nice.
I have set up, and I think I'm pretty computer savvy compared with most of the world. And for years, I've had 2 screens. So my office setup is 2 27-inch screens beside each other and has been for years. And then at my home office, I have just recently moved. So if you want to watch us on YouTube, to highlight my my artistic side, and I have a screen below another screen, and I always struggled with going sideways, figuring out which side the mouse is going to go out. you can orient your screens on top of each other.
Mhm.
And I was like, this is brilliant. I'm not sure why I've never thought about it, because I don't have screens that sit on top of each other that often. But it's this idea that we all have chances to learn. And that's one of the things I've learned, and I learned time and time again, that the smallest things are sometimes just because we didn't look into how it's done. So that's my first one.
And I like that it just gives you literally a different perspective, but also can just a bit of a different perspective sometimes can open up some ideas. How about you, Chris? What's new in the last 4 months?
Well, I bought a lot of little things. You don't care about any of them, right? So I won't even bring it up. But I will say this: I recently just joined like the AirPod crowd.
Yes.
So
Oh, yeah.
I don't have an iPhone; I have an Android phone, and you can get like these AirPods sort of things online, and they're super cheap. Like AirPods are like what, $7,000.
Yeah, about exactly that.
It's 7,000, right? These are far cheaper. It's great. But the best part is that and if you have an AirPod, you're like, duh, Chris, obviously. The carrying case is a battery.
Is the battery? Yes.
So not only does it charge the device, I can plug my phone in it and it will charge my phone.
Oh,
Yeah. So
my knockoff ones don't do that.
My
great.
knockoff ones
You
do.
bought the wrong knockoffs.
Yeah.
kidding.
But that's not what I'm going to recommend. If you don't have AirPods, I don't care what you do about that. But this is what I do want to talk about. It's not something I bought. It was something that someone showed me just today, and I'm already in love with it. It's Padlet, padlet.com. If you're familiar with Trello, it's like Trello, but on steroids. It is an online bulletin board where you can arrange ideas, thoughts, things that you write, and then share it with people who can then contribute and edit the things that you write. Now, Padlet has a lot of different modes, and you can put these ideas on a map, on a timeline. Like the map one, I'm in love with. It's a map of the world. You type in a place, it drops a pin, it zooms all the way in, and you can type whatever you want there. Like, oh, I love this restaurant here. And then you can share that with anybody. So there's a map, there's a timeline function where you can put events on a timeline collaboratively. I'm just playing around with it all day. I'm fantasizing about all the ways I'm going to use this with staff. And so far, I've come up with like a dozen things. I'm very excited about it. So check it out at padlet.com.
That's nice. And shout out to Sam Thompson from the Day Camp Pod, who introduced me to Padlet a number of years ago. I saw her use it as part of a collaboration during a panel at a conference with a whole bunch of day camps where someone was recording as they went onto Padlet. That's really cool. Thanks, Chris. How do you feel, Gab? What do you got?
I've got an Apple Pencil, and I'm very excited about this. Now, I do use Apple products, and I'm not going to say that with shame. I'm proud of my Apple products. I love them. I love them because they work the way my brain works. And my computer died in the middle of COVID. I do have a desktop, so I made the shift to have an iPad. And I didn't buy the Apple Pen right away for two reasons. One, because I was worried I was going to lose it. So I got another pen that I had already used for my phone to do sketches, and I used that one for my iPad. And I just made the shift to the Apple Pencil, and I absolutely adore it. It has palm rejection technology, meaning I can rest my hand on the iPad. But more importantly, if you're somebody that needs to sketch out ideas, either handwriting out your ideas, you can handwrite out your ideas and then select what you wrote out and then convert it to text. So then you can send that off into a Google Doc, text message, however you want to do that. So I can absolutely, I type things, but sometimes I need to actually write it out, especially when I don't know why, but when I'm having the deep feels, I do need to hand write it out. And then that convert to text piece is so awesome. But it also is just it is definitely made for the iPad. And I could talk so much about it, but it just fits with my mind, and it helps me stay organized and get ideas out there.
That is awesome. That's a great one. Well, we're going to go pretty fast today with lots of different things. One other thing that is new to me, it's a product similar to, did we miss somebody, Chris? Is that what that face is for? No, everybody's had a turn.
Mm-hmm.
When you do this, you're pointing to me on my
Oh,
screen.
no,
Joe.
In our little Brady Bunch thing here,
Yes.
I'm pointing to Joe.
Joe, it was the monitors, the two monitors.
The monitors.
Joe went first. That's right. Okay. Sorry.
Simple.
I like how you look
Simple.
out for Joe, though, Chris.
But thanks.
Yeah.
Listen,
That's
I was
nice.
just thinking before the podcast that nobody looks out for me.
I'm always looking out for you,
You really
Joe.
are, yeah.
Come on.
Chris didn't want you to miss your chance to talk about
Yeah.
scroll saws.
Oh,
Come on, people.
In the past 5 months,
Listen,
I've bought
people,
some
it's
scrolls.
Travis.
Everyone is very punchy tonight. Let's.
I didn't know that this was a drinking podcast.
Oh, okay.
One of my things, it's a product I've used something in the family before, but this new version is great. It's called RocketBook. So RocketBook uses special paper and a Pilot brand pen called a Friction, and it's nice paper that the Friction can write on, and it's erasable pen. And it stays on the page unless you actually use it and erase it. The one I'm using is called the Orbit, and it's kind of the size of half a sheet of paper sideways, so it fits on my desk. It's good for drop-in notes on. Like Gabz, I'm a doodler and a sketcher, so I can just sketch and doodle on stuff, and then either wipe it off with water and a cloth, or wipe it off. It's got a little nib on the back of the pen. And I've used the Friction pens before and I didn't like them at all. And this new one that I got with this new set, the paper, etc., then I don't have to keep throwing out paper. I've got paper to use over and over again. So that is by RocketBook, again, all in the show notes. How about you, Chris? What's next?
So, well, I already mentioned 2 things. I mentioned my fake AirPods and Padlet.
Okay.
I want to mention, can I talk about phone apps?
Does anybody have any more last 4-month things that
These are not 4-month things, and I don't want to.
Yeah.
One of the last 4 months things I was thinking about is this idea that I live in Canada, this great country that has the metric system. And for years growing up, I've only had tape measures that were, up until about 7 years ago, that were both metric and imperial, which meant that if you're on the wrong side of the tape, you're always sort of guessing where things were. Then I was introduced to Fastcap Imperial measuring tapes, and it's big, giant, and it tells you what fraction of an inch you're at. And then I got a Fastcap metric, so that I now am teaching myself to do things in metric when I'm in the workshop working, and it is so much easier to measure things in millimeters
than fractions.
Oh my God, I don't understand where I was before. It's like I didn't grow up in Canada, and it is brilliant. So and like the Imperial, this only has metric on it. So I thought until yesterday I was measuring, and it actually shows you where your 16-inch on centers are, where your stud centers are, 16, 32. So it is, it's brilliant.
I've seen those tapes from Fastcap before, and they have the little white patch on the side of them. What's that for?
You write on with a pencil, then you lick your finger, and it goes away.
Oh, just to remember some measurements.
It's like a little notepad.
Putting measurements on. It also has a built-in pencil sharpener on the end.
Stop it.
Too much.
And it does have the hook for your belt. I take that off because I don't hook it in my belt. I don't have any use for that. So it is, and they have, this model is a locking one like most. But they have another one, not in the metric, but in the Imperial, where it automatically locks when you pull it out. Like it stays out, and then you press the button to bring it back in. Yeah, the pad. This is
That's
the
clever.
tool of the week, right? This because I'm somewhere, I take the measurement, I write down 32 and 3/16 if I'm doing Imperial that day, and then you just lick your thumb. And I have nothing has not come off of this. Nothing has not come off of this. That is correct. That is the correct statement.
Wait, that means everything has.
Yeah,
correct.
that was
everything has come off of it.
The correct use of double negative. All right.
Which is Joe's life, the correct use of double negatives.
Oh, that is a good one. That's going on my list too.
Yeah.
Are they hard to find Fastcap
people.
stuff in Canada, Joe?
Yeah, you can buy it on Amazon. You can buy it at Lee Valley. You can buy it at I don't know that Busy Bee sells it.
Okay.
But
Princess Auto.
They do not sell Fastcap. But Princess Auto, Busy Bee, and Lee Valley will get you a lot of the way to where you need to go.
Sure.
For anything.
Yeah. Gab, do you have any last 4-month things before we shift gears a tiny bit?
Nope.
All right, to Chris with leading us off in the app department.
Okay, so phone apps. Here we go. This is just a wild collection. I have 3. Do you want to hear all 3 of them?
Do it.
Yeah.
Do it. Yep.
Okay, so kind of quick. Okay, so speaking of me going first, so there's an app. So I'm a avid board gamer, and there's an app called Chwazi, which we're playing a board game. It's like, who's going to go first? Well, let's ask Chwazi. So Chwazi is an app for your phone, dead simple. All it is that everybody, you want to determine who's going to go first. Everyone puts a finger on the screen, and the app will tell you, it will draw a circle around someone's finger and be like, that person goes first. That's it.
That's really fun.
What?
That's the entire thing. That's the entire app.
It's really fun.
You're listening being like, no, is that it? No, that's it. But when you think about it, what else serves that function? It's just dead simple. You can use it for board gaming, but I find you can use it for anything.
Yeah.
Like,
what it does, Chris, is it makes me think, how can you use it for something else? Right.
It's great.
Yeah.
I've done it with friends at bars, like, who's picking up the tab? Oh, it's you. You do all sorts of things with it.
Who's getting smacked with a back scratcher? It's you.
It's random. It's wonderful. Check it out. The other thing, sudden left turn, is that the news is absolutely awful. I live in America, so it's a dumpster fire. And sometimes I can't bear to wake up and open up New York Times on my phone and see all the terrible, horrible things that Americans are doing every second of every day. And I was really happy to discover the Good News Network, which is a website, but it's also an app on your phone. They only report good news.
I love it.
That's it.
Yep.
So advances in science, kids raising money, people donating organs, fun, like hard on your luck, but success stories. And that's now what I check when I wake up, and I'm like, oh, life is worth living for one more day. That was dark. Didn't mean that, but check it out. It gets me through.
Keep thinking this podcast is going different places. First it's drinking, and now it's
no.
You need assistance.
But he's drinking.
Because I'm not crossing the border to help, but I can help from here.
Lastly, but not least, DNDify. So, like I mentioned, I am a board gamer. I play role-playing games, and sometimes when you're the dungeon master and the group is facing off against orcs in a dungeon, you have got to have the appropriate music to play in the background.
Yes.
Well, DNDify is there. It has it by the creatures that they're fighting. It has it by mood, triumphant, funeral. It has background noise like blacksmith, city, desert. So what if you don't play role-playing games? Chris, I don't play role-playing games. What do I need D&Dify for?
When you have
it's
a kid,
fantastic
just follow
background
them
music.
around and play the sounds.
Yeah. What's great about it is that I get a ton of work done just by listening. Like if I go to like the battle and I pick epic battle versus the boss, the music is so triumphant. Like I'm just typing like ferociously. Like I feel like I'm in a movie. I get a ton of work done. It's fantastic background noise. And they have all different kinds of settings. Like they have like Mystical Glen. So it's all music. It pulls the music from Spotify. I have a Spotify account. I don't know if you need a paid account either way. it will pull it from Spotify. So I think you have to have that app on your phone as well. But it's it's DNDify. So check that out.
So
Love it.
good. Right on. That's a great one. Thank you, Chris.
Yeah.
Gab, how's your app situation?
It's awesome, but I'd love to talk about webinars.
Well, can we do more? If you don't have any apps, then let us do some.
Yes.
All right. We'll focus on
Absolutely.
apps for a little bit. We'll come back to you with webinars for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Joe, what do you think?
I have some apps. Some of them we've talked about before. I certainly have. Pocket, I find recently, I read somewhere. So Pocket is like Instapaper in Pocket. It's a place to store things, articles you want to read. And I'm getting myself in the habit of, instead of just opening a social media feed or a news feed, to just open Pocket and read an article I've already saved. And so as a, and if you can get around paywalls with Pocket, just so you're all on the same cheating people side. We have, so Pocket is one of mine. And on that same side that Chris has, looking for good news, I still use Feedly, and Feedly is an app for RSS feeds, but I also use it as my news search feed. So it's like it reads everybody's Twitter, all of the Twitter things, and I can read Boing Boing, and I can read Lifehacker, and I can read the New York Times and CNN and the Washington Post. I can view the headlines, and then it clicks through. The value is you see zero ads. Like there's just no ads in your life if that's the way you take the news in. So that's Pocket and Feedly. And my last one, and this is a nod to one of Travis's credos, which is consume less, create more. So oftentimes when we pick up our phone, we're not creating, we're consuming.
Full on consumption, yeah. And
I downloaded Sketchbook by Autodesk. If you're on YouTube, I'm going to give you a small slideshow. So I started this maybe 3-4 weeks ago. And so what you start to see is, how do you play with, what is Sketchbook? I'm trying to figure out what Sketchbook is, right? And you slowly, as you go through, you start to see, oh, I can do this with Sketchbook. But then I get to points where I'm actually like, oh, that idea I can play with, like where shapes. But then when you go, oh, look, I'm going to call somebody. When you go further, what you get to is this idea that I use it as my background. And so you take things and you make them. And there are times where, like everything in art, no matter if you're an artist or not, you feel like what you're doing isn't art, because you're like, well, anybody could do this, so why don't they just do it? But I find that instead of just consuming news or bad news or things, what happens is I use it to sort of shape ideas and see what you can create with it. So Sketchbook, Autodesk.
Excellent. Good choices. So 3 apps. You have to talk, Joe, for it to show up in the mic on the YouTube, because it only shows one camera of the person who's talking.
It wasn't for you guys. It's for everybody else. Look, Travis just, yeah.
There you go.
Yeah.
So worth checking out YouTube this week, because so many fun examples. So I have 3 apps that I like, that I think are really handy. One is an Android app, and there is a version of something like this on iOS that I think is a little better known, but I use Android, so I don't really know. But this is a great app, especially if you're like me and making more and more videos. And now that my phone camera is such good quality, I rarely break out my fancy cameras to do videos anymore. And this is called NanoTeleprompter. And I can write up something in Google Docs, copy it into there, and then open up the camera video app on my Android phone, and it'll put the NanoTeleprompter on one side of the screen, like right beside the camera. And it'll scroll itself, and you change the pace based on how detailed your notes are. And then it's nice there because it has cues for whatever, and it doesn't look like I'm reading because it's right in the corner of my eye. I can do it and follow it that way, and I like it. It's certainly I used it starting this spring when I did more Instagram live or Instagram videos. What's the word I'm looking for? The longer videos on Instagram when there's COVID stuff going on. I use it then to organize my thoughts because it was lots of stuff going on. I was trying to keep that organized. And so that's one that I like. Another one is called AnyList at AnyList.com, and it's a grocery list app. And
nice.
you can share it from your household. You can take a recipe off the web, cut and paste the address into your AnyList, and it'll pop out the whole shopping list for you. It can also be set up on Alexa and Google speakers. So you could say, Google, add this to my shopping list, and it goes to AnyList. And so it's a really good app. You can also save favorite recipes, and then just say, we're making this week, and it'll pop all the ingredients there. Then you can check your fridge and check off the ones you already have. So the one that I quite like. And the other one is a brand new app to me just in the last week. I've used something like it before, but there comes a point at which thumb typing a long message becomes too big of a pain for me, and I just lose concentration when I'm trying to get stuff done. And sometimes it's faster to just leave a voicemail. And this app is called Yak. Right now it's free because it's a pretty new app. It'll integrate with your camp's Slack team, where you can just leave a voicemail. People can listen to the voice message on Slack or on the Yak app, and it also transcribes it. So if people can't listen to it, there's a transcription of what you said.
Oh,
that happens.
Gosh, that's
and
amazing.
right now it's free. Like, get in now because it's a brand new app.
Yeah.
Get into it now. Apps like this usually give a break to people that help them beta test at the beginning of
Right.
things. And I have paid for apps like this before just to do the voicemail part of it, or the voice message part of it. Having the transcription really is such a big difference. Makes a big difference. So that's called Yak, YAC. Again, camphacker.tv/podcast. So that's phone apps. Gab, where do you want to take us next?
Webinars. So I reached out to a couple of camp directors to ask what's their tool of the year, what's keeping them sane, what's keeping them on track, and resounding webinars have come up. So I'll start with my first one that I signed up for 5 weeks ago, and I just finished the course today. And I did this with Jackie, my mother, who I work with. And so this is from the organization called Academy of Therapy Wisdom. And the course that I did with Jackie was Embodied Anti-Racism, a mindfulness way for therapists and helping professionals. So when I was talking to a friend of mine about why she likes webinars, she was saying it was helping her keep accountable for the things that she needs to get done. And I think sometimes we we put out so much work and information, we need to be replenished with that, with other knowledge besides our own. And so webinars, I'm finding, can be very, very helpful. And education is of course helpful if that's something that you can afford. So Shauna Joyce is now doing the fundraising lab. And so she runs a non-for-profit organization and summer camp called Amy Molson. And what she loves about this webinar is that there's a part of it that's called Sparks. And so the Spark section is a group conversation. So she gets the information from the webinars, and then you can have your weekly Spark conversations with other individuals. And so she knows that fundraising is a big part of her job. And it's not something that she's, it's that she gets up in the morning saying, yes, let's do some fundraising, but being part of these groups and doing this webinar is keeping her accountable. And she's learning a lot. She's really enjoying it, just like Jackie and myself. I'm genuinely really enjoyed the Embodied Anti-Racism workshop. And this is a workshop that I did that is for therapists and for people that work with people. So you have a lot of different individuals there in the group. So just hearing how they approach issues and how they approach these problems, is just very, very cool. It's kind of empowering also to see, people working towards a common goal outside of the camp industry. So those are two really cool webinars. And then the last one, which I'm a big fan of, one of my staff members does 5-minute Fridays with Go Camp Pro. Now I'm obviously part of CampHacker and Camp Code, but this was sent to me outside of my circle, and the 5-minute Fridays professional development in bite-sized pieces, I think, is a best way of describing it. And this was sent to me by a friend who said he's an alternative learner, and it's what plants the seed of ideas. So he looks forward to Fridays, getting this information, and that information just sparks so many ideas in him. He cannot rave more about this. So I actually haven't experienced it, but one of my own staff members is part of this this piece, and somebody from the outside that I reached out and just said, what's helping you in camp today? So the 5-minute Fridays by Go Camp Pro is one of those things.
Well, thank you very much, Gabz. That's awesome.
Well, I was happy to hear that it was so popular. I said, well, that's great. I'm happy.
Yeah, that's amazing. All right. Well, thank you, Dane, for that. If you listen to the show,
Yes.
Dane, we're grateful. Okay. Joe, I haven't been able to, I'm not scrolled to your list. So are you ready for computer apps, Joe?
Yes, I am. I'm ready. Should I speak to computer apps, Travis? Sweet. So I have 3 computer apps. The first one is the Google Work Suite. They've recently rebranded. We at Camp have Google for nonprofits, so we're wholly invested in this. And I can't tell you enough about how things have improved over the years. And even recently, both my wife and my son are on Apple devices for their phone. And we years ago tried Google Keep for a shopping list, and now it updates like crazy fast, whereas before it never worked. And just Google for Work, the more we can get things integrated, and it's an app that just works. And I did a productivity session for a recent conference that I recorded, and it's on YouTube. And I was reminded when I was setting up my inbox for multi-inboxes how much I should use that system in Gmail and with Google Docs and whatnot. So that is one app. The second app is, during the pandemic, our camp has been releasing weekly staff alumni interviews. And so I've learned how to do video editing, which was not a skill I had pre-pandemic. I had it very generally pre-pandemic. And this one is for Gab, but I did buy the Raill Video Studio Pro when I originally started this. And it is a $99 program that you can make high quality videos with, and it is super amazing and awesome. You can do slideshows and video shows and television and everything. It is for $99. How can you go wrong with you just need to learn it. And so it's Video Studio Pro Ultimate, I think, is what I bought 2020, and it is great. I use it every day. I try to learn from it at least a couple of days a week, and I edit video weekly with it. So that is great. And I also found when I'm uploading videos for the conference I was recently at, we were doing like an update video and a tour of our camp shop. It's great that you can add intros and outros, and it's really classy, and has a music library built in that fills the video time that you
nice.
need.
Yep.
And so it's like DNDify. The beginning of the beginning of our video for our maintenance shop tour is like this build up. And when I shortened the length, it shortened that. And my third one is, do you ever find an app, Travis, that you're not quite sure how you'll use it in the future? But you know that it's really cool?
Yep.
So my third one is Framer. And it's worth it to go to framer.com. And what it's for and what you can use it for are two different things. What it's
I just
for,
hear your what I'm just
Okay.
here. This is your voice that you use in telling your wife why you bought the thing that you bought. You're like, listen, hear me out as I'm trying to figure out the reason why you
Hear
should
me
let
out. There's a reason I need a third scroll saw because I'm going to keep this specific blade in it. What Framer is, it's a way to prototype phone apps. And you can literally prototype them with the checkboxes, with the drop-down menus, the whole thing. So you can build your phone app within it and then prototype it, but you can't export the phone app. I have this belief that you could use it for presentations online for like Zoom and whatnot, just to make it a lot more interesting. I think there's something, I forget where I came across it. It was recently in the past couple of months, and it is one of those things, and I would encourage everybody to do this, which is let things sit in your brain. You don't need to know exactly what it's for when you find it, right? Oftentimes we're taught that things are superfluous sometimes, and we don't know, if you don't know how they fit, get rid of them. And the reality is you just need to figure out how it fits and where it fits and how much time you want to spend on it. But it's one of those, framer.com. They have project examples, and it's
Nice.
it looks really cool.
That sounds
yeah.
awesome.
And I don't quite know how. I think it's one of those things like Flickr. I think the app isn't what they think it is. I think it can be used for so much more. So that's where I'll leave it, framer.com. Those are my three.
Nice. Excellent. Chris, do you have app computer things that you want to recommend?
I do have a couple. I don't know if they're going to be revolutionary. Start with the first one. Audacity. Audacity is a sound editing program, which you've probably heard of before. It's really super popular because it's really super flexible. If you want to record anything, be it a podcast or you singing or something, Audacity has some like really common sense editing tools. I don't think it looks that intimidating, but then again, I've been using it for a couple of years. It's free to download, which I can't believe that it's free to download because it's really good.
So good. Yeah.
It's so good. So if you are interested in recording sound for any reason, check out Audacity.
I know lots of camps that that use it for kids to make podcasts. Like it's because it's inexpensive, they can put it on a cheap computer and kids can just play.
Yeah, cool. It's so great. The other thing, I'm cheating because it's also kind of a phone app, but like, and I don't know if everyone else's phones does this, but like, I need a way for when I have my computer. Sometimes my computer needs to get on the internet and I just need to connect it. I know some people with their phone, you pay to be able to connect other devices to it. I haven't had a new phone in 2 years, so maybe this is standard. So if everyone's phone can already do this, great. If not, there's an app called PDA Net for Android, and you install it on your computer and on your phone. And then it just turns your phone into a hotspot. No questions asked. Boom. You don't have to pay for it. So don't come for me, Verizon. Like I'm just reporting the news. Okay. It's, you don't have to pay for it, and it's dead simple. And I've been using it for a really long time. I use it at camp. It's great to get me out of a jam, honestly. So PDA Net for Android. And the last thing is it's something that exists in Windows. And I'm told it has existed in Windows for quite some time. It's a keyboard shortcut called Snip and Sketch, right? Everyone's nodding.
Yeah.
I'm the last person to know about this. So
Joe's a Windows user. I'm looking at Joe.
Let me tell you something. When there was something on the screen that I wanted to like get a graphic of, I would hit print screen. I'd open up Paint. I'd paste it. Then I would like crop it, and then I would save it.
Yeah.
Windows does all that automatically if you hold Shift, Windows key, and S, and you draw around what you want to just turn into a JPEG, and boom, it's done. I'm embarrassed to say that I just discovered this like 2 months ago, and it has changed my life. So if you have been living under a rock right next to my rock, then Snip and Sketch, use it. It saved me a ton of time. It's like the simplest thing, but there it is.
What's the shortcut, Chris, again?
Let me just test this
Windows
out right
key Shift
now.
and
And
S.
S. Yeah.
There you go.
Windows key Shift S.
I've
Yeah.
known about it for years as this. I've always called it the sniping tool, the snipping tool, and it was you had to start it and screen it. But yeah, that it looks like they've improved it since I last used it.
Mhm.
I've been using a Raill product for this very purpose, so no worries here.
It's just part of Windows. It's
There you go.
stunning. Anyway, those are my computer apps.
Excellent. So I have one. No, actually, I don't think any of these are Mac specific. I think they're all universal. One is called Command E, and it is a shortcut tool. You hit Command E or Control E on a Windows machine, and it'll search through all of your files, but it'll search through all your Google Drive files and any files in Slack, and you can make it index your drive as well. And so it's kind of a universal search for files things. Like Joe, I'm pretty invested in Google Drive and Google products, and so everything is done there. And it's like, I could try to come up with the term, but once it indexes your Google Drive, then you just find it and it pops up in the window with that particular Google Doc, or this particular folder that you're using right now because you're involved in a big project, and it's a huge time saver. So Command E is one of mine. Another one that that I really like, and this is fairly new, I just got it this fall, it's called the Stack Browser. And yes, it's an internet browser, which is same old, but this one allows you to take and favorite a few websites, and then they're on the left hand side of your screen. So I use this for my Google Mail and Google Calendar, and they're not in my browser window. For yours, that they were just another pinned tab in my Chrome browser window, but this keeps them separate. And I like that because of the ability to flip back and forth between I'm researching something here and writing an email in another thing. And then I can always shortcut to switch between those two different apps. And it's easier than trying to move along the tabs from my Google Mail to my Google Calendar. So using the app switching shortcut, which I'm actually going to talk about later, makes it faster. So that's Stack Browser. Again, camphacker.tv/podcast and episode 136 to find all these links. The last one is an app that I just started using this summer. My partner co-coach in the Alt MBA that I coached this summer uses it for a lot of things. And it's an app called Notion, and it's at notion.so. And it's kind of like, in its simplest terms, it is a Google Drive, Google Docs combo, but prettier. It does a lot more things in that. There are fancy tables and databases you can build in it. My friend Yash taught me, and this is what I've been using it for too. I take notes in different things. If you've been a long-time listener, you know that I try to take type notes in all my phone calls, just to have a record of them. That all goes in Notion, and I can search by person, I can search by date. I have been using it to make nice looking, super fast website pages for projects, especially volunteer projects. So if I don't want to create a new page on gocamp.pro for something because it's not related to that, like some recent work I've been doing with the Canadian Camp Association, then I can create a page in Notion. I can make it look pretty. You can throw emojis into the pages. You can do lots of stuff. And it's just basically a one-off, super fast web page that I can build. I'm using it for tons of other things, like running my role-playing games that I run, notes for the role-playing games that I play, and like tons of work stuff. I'm in Notion all the time. It's phone, tablet, and computer, and it is great. If you check the show notes, you can see 4 of my public pages that I've created that that anybody can see, just as a way to see kind of what I use it for. Gab, we haven't done you in a while. I know you don't have computer apps, but what's the next thing you want to talk about?
The next thing I want to talk about is it's free, and I've spoken about it before, but I I can't emphasize it enough, is to get pocket counselors for your counselors at camp. So if you go to the website Concept Citron, which is the graphic design website that myself and my team graphic design partner Annie Trudeau run, we have a free downloadable template for you to create cards for your staff members to have information on those cards for those things that they can't necessarily always remember, such as the schedule of the day. I know that sounds like, maybe everybody does know that. And if you've been at camp for a long time, you might forget on actually how hard it is to remember the entire schedule. And your staff might even trick you. And they might even seem like they know the schedule during staff training. And then it comes to day 1, day 2, day 3. My favorite cards are actually those odd days, the visitors day schedule, or even camp songs that for new staff members, this will be lifesavers. Taps, for example, where everybody just seems like they know that song. But for new staff members, they don't. What about overnights? That little packing list. You only go on an overnight maybe once every other week. Or some fun, quick activities, just a list of those activities. Don't have to have the how-tos, but if you practice those activities during staff training and you've done all of them, just having a list of them it will stop staff members from using just their top 2 or top 3, but they can pick from a list of 15. So we have that template already for you that you can download, and you just have to put in your information. And this has helped me so much with our staff in reducing their anxiety, but keeping everybody on the same page. So the pocket counselor is great, and you can always add new cards to it. And especially in a year that we have a lot of unknown, and maybe where everybody has some new learning, I think a pocket counselor is going to help with getting everybody on the same page and feeling confident about going into the 2021 summer.
It is a great word tool. What else you got, Gab?
I have basic markers, chalk markers. So replace your cork boards at camp with plexiglass. Put plexiglass over the cork boards, so the back is still black, and use these markers to write your message of the day, the schedule, your welcome, all of the above. We have a bunch of chalkboards at camp, and after a couple of seasons, they start to crack you. It's really hard to wash off the actual chalk, but this is, it is clean, clean, clean. So now what we've done is we've put the plexiglass in front of all of our chalkboards, and these markers make things look real pretty and very easy to wipe down, and really bright. Actually, they look awesome. And you can also decorate windows at your camp. And imagine opening day having messages on the buses for when you pick up the kids, all across all of the windows. Have them all decorated when you're going to the parking lot and picking up your kids. These markers are fantastic. So that's my next one. And my last one is it might seem silly, I have it with me right here. It is football. So I have a junior size NFL Wilson football. And the reason why I have this is because it's mine. It has my name on it. It doesn't say Camp Waro. And why this is important and special is that, especially during staff training, I find it that I can really bring people together when I take out this football that doesn't belong to camp, belongs to me, and we throw it around. And it creates sort of this ambiance of it's special because this is something that's special to me. I have a junior size football because the majority of my staff members are women. And so we have smaller hands. It's easier to hold. Yes, Joe, you have, anybody's hand looks big if you put it that close to the camera, but yeah.
Especially with your new wide angle lens, Joe.
But if you deflate it just a little bit, it's easier to catch. And sometimes something like this is really intimidating if you've never picked up a football before, if you don't throw things very often. But I think the thing that's special about it is that it is mine. Now, I bought it for camp, but I decided to put the name on it, my name, and I use it quite often. And people always bring it right back to me, or they come to me and ask, can we borrow your football? And I don't know. There's something special about letting other people borrow your stuff as a camp director. It creates that bond. So, and also it helps for those lull times. This has come in very handy for me.
That is a great one. Thank you, Gabz. I'm going to switch categories. I wonder, for you, Joe, what's a book that you would recommend at this end of the year show?
It's funny. I didn't pay attention to the list you sent us until just before the podcast. And so I had a whole bunch of books, but the book I chose out of that stack when I saw that you were only letting us do one book is a book by Neil Gaiman called Art Matters. Because your imagination can change the world. And if you have not read this, literally buy the book. I'm going to do short readings, Travis. Ideas spring up where you do not expect them. Like weeds, they are difficult to control. And I believe that repressing ideas spreads ideas. I believe that people and books and newspapers are containers for ideas, but that burning people who hold the idea will be as unsuccessful as firebombing the newspaper archives. It's already too late. It is always too late. The ideas are already out, hiding behind people's eyes, waiting for their thoughts. They can be whispered, they can be written on walls in the dead of the night, and they can be drawn. It is a fascinating book that's also illustrated by a gentleman, Chris Raill. And it is it's an easy read, and it is great. And it is a book that sits out for me so I can see it, and that I read every few months just to remind myself that the rules, the assumptions, the now we're supposed to's of how to get your work be seen and what you do are breaking down, right? It's just full of Neil Gaiman great things. It's the one book that really reminds me that people who only read nonfiction are selling themselves short, because your imagination can make connections that learning from someone else can't always do. Right? So different worlds. I know that both Travis and Chris play role-playing games, right? You put yourself in different worlds, but things connect and things make sense. And sometimes doing that brings two things that you never thought were connected together, and you're like, oh, we can do that at camp, and that would be super awesome and amazing. So Neil Gaiman, Art Matters, because your imagination can change the world. Be bold, be rebellious, choose art. Yeah. Boom.
Perfect.
That's what we say.
All right. Chris, do you have a book?
I do have a book. It is How to Be an Anti-Racist by Ibram Kendi. It is, I think, required reading for everybody. And you may have heard of this book. So Kendi breaks down, through talking about his own life and his work, breaks down the idea of what being anti-racist looks like. And it's just like racism is about reducing equity or ignoring inequity. And anti-racism is about increasing equity. And it's really so simple when he lays it out. It really is so simple to either be a racist or an anti-racist. And he says there's no middle of the road non-racism. That's not a thing. And I've been thinking a lot about just this moment, and especially turning a DEI lens on camps and the efforts that camps make in this realm. And it can sometimes just be that simple. It's just that simple. Like, are you in the business of increasing equity? Are you in the business of making sure that everyone can be present at the table? Are you interested in pulling people forward who have been held back? It's that simple to be anti-racist. I mean, listen to me saying it's that simple. I'm a Black person. I don't know what it's like to be a white person. I don't know what it's like to have the entire world bend towards you all the time. So I'm going to walk back my earlier statements. Maybe it's not simple. I don't know. That's if you're listening and you're a white person, you tell me. It's probably extremely difficult. I wouldn't know what it would be like to have to see the world one way and then turn around and be like, oh, wait, there's a whole nother matrix-like experience right underneath this one, and it's crushing and terrible, and I should do something about it. So check out the book. It will, I think no matter where you are on your journey towards being anti-racism, I think it will give you something to think about. So check it out. And when you do check it out, please search online for a Black-owned online bookstore and order it from them. Jeff Bezos does not need any more of your money. He has most of your money anyway. So let's spread it around.
That's great. I know there are great lists of Black-owned bookstores from the States. I haven't seen a Canadian list yet, though. Doesn't mean it doesn't happen.
And I couldn't
I've just
find
seen
one. But there's got to be a Black person in Canada who's selling books. So if you're Canadian, if you're Canadian, if you're listening to this and you're a Black person selling books in Canada, please let us know.
Yeah. Great choice. Okay. Gab, yes, please.
Yep. I have a book as well. So White Fragility, Why It's So Hard for White People to Talk About Racism. I think that the book as a whole has some very good points. I think there's a couple of things that might need some tweaking, but I think the bottom line about it is that white silence has a huge impact, negative impact. And it's important to address, if you're having a hard time talking about these issues, it's important to start inward with yourself first and understand why that is, and how can we bring that forward within our camp. And I've had a couple of camps that have approached me and, said, well, we're primarily white camp. How can we start talking about racism? How can we start talking about white privilege? And I don't think you can really do that until you start exploring why you're having a hard time with it. So for me, it's not necessarily this book. I found it helpful and it gave me some perspective, but I think it is about reaching outwardly and looking what resources are available for you, so you could look inwardly and start those conversations with your staff members. But it's important to also know that there's resistance and blockades within ourselves, a lot of people, and we have to address those things first and foremost, so that we can help our staff find not only the language that is necessary, but the actions that are necessary to move forward to create a safe environment for our kids, our staff members, and be very aware of the microaggressions that happen at camp. It's not these overt aggressions. Some of it there is, but there's a lot of microaggressions and to educate yourself. So I would start there. But for me, White Fragility was helpful.
Great. I'm going to shift gears.
Yeah.
I have a book. I picked a fiction book that is one that I just finished, an author that I've read many of her books, N.K. Jemisin, and she's an excellent fantasy writer, science fiction fantasy writer, who is known for her world building skills, for sort of inventing a new world or new way of things. The one I just finished, and as usual, it is all audiobooks, because I love audiobooks for listening to fiction. It's called The City We Became, and really interesting that the background premise is that once a major city in the world becomes big enough, it basically births its own avatar. So a person becomes the avatar of that city, because there's a need to defend the city from, in this case, interdimensional being who's trying to take over and kill the city. And it is a good book. Do you know, Chris?
Awesome. The
City We Became is about New York City.
That it reminds me of there's a comic book called The Authority, and that's someone's superpower is he engages with the souls of city and then wears them like body armor. It's very hard to describe, but that just reminded me, because I was like, that's the coolest thing. I'm thinking about cities as an organism. I think is really cool.
Yeah, really neat. In this case, it's about New York City, and so each one of the people representing in New York City is unusual. Most cities have one person who's the avatar. or the symbol, the superhero of the city. New York City, of course, has 5, and each one of them has a very unique characteristic of the different boroughs. And it's quite fun. So I just finished it and I loved it. I was just so entranced by the idea. And N.K. Jemisin is a wonderful, it's really great at creating worlds, and I love her stuff. So that is my fun, take your mind off things, but get really wrapped up in an idea. It's one of those books that was so good I would invent things to do so I could put my headphones in and listen for half an hour. Yes, I would love to do some more dishes. Please let me empty the dishwasher and go for the mail and do a million things. Like, anyway, great book.
Awesome.
So you can see that there. The last category I picked was things that don't necessarily fit a category, or so I guess it's kind of a bonus for everybody. Joe, do you have a bonus thing? Oh, Chris really is excited for your
I
pick.
wanted to go first.
You go first. You go
do
first.
it, Chris. Do it.
Okay.
Can do it.
This
Bonus.
This is this is cool. Okay.
Bonus.
Gather all your empty toilet paper rolls.
I'm already doing it. Okay, let's.
No,
okay.
don't do it
like
right now,
empty
everybody.
toilets.
It's
Just
already
listen.
literally. I have them. I don't know what I'm using them for.
Okay, so are you ready?
Yes.
Get your empty
Chris knows.
toilet paper rolls.
Okay.
Take one end and either duct tape or packing tape one end of it.
Yes.
Arrange them in a drawer, like honeycomb style. And now that's
Standing
where you
up,
store
yeah.
all your USB cords.
Shut up.
Any of your aux cords, you just wrap them up and you stick them in the tubes, right? The stick at the bottom helps keep them in place. And boom, that's it. It's changed my life. I can't tell you. I'm like, oh, I need an aux cord. Like, I got to go through my drawer and pull all these things. But now it's just like you just
No
pop
more
up the
tangled
tube,
mess.
Pop up the tube, pull it out, bam, and then just goes right back in. Listen, that's my gift. Everyone listening, you're welcome.
That's
I've
great.
just been saving toilet paper rolls because every summer I'm like, if only I had 20 toilet paper rolls. So I've just been saving them. There's some great
Now you know
Star
what to do with them.
Wars. Well, there's some Star Wars fun spaceships you can do with them. So I'm pulled right now. But I still have a whole year to go, so I could probably do both.
I love it. Great, Chris. Thank you. Joe.
Mm-hmm.
That's good. Years ago, I recommended a tool called the Pick Punch, which you can take gift cards. It works better with credit cards and old licenses and health cards and things. And you can make guitar picks out of them.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, this was years ago. And what I learned in the in-between time is I don't like playing guitar with that size pick. I have giant hands, and the original pick punch was only the regular sort of little triangle with the rounded top. I, for whatever reason, went back on the Pick Punch website recently, and they now sell ones that are like the giant triangle, which is what I use, just a bigger
Like the ukulele picks.
Similar to, you might call
ukulele
them
ones are usually felt, but the ukulele sized.
No, they're bigger than that, because I have ukulele felt ones as well, but they're rounded on all 3 sides, and they're Jim Dunlop tortoiseshell picks is what I normally buy. But now that I know Pick Punch I've put it back on my Christmas list, and I hope that my wife paid attention, but who knows? Pick Punch. It's great because what we do at camp with it is I make picks out of anything. I have some here that are out of an old bank card and a credit card, and I don't care about these picks. So when I'm at chapel or at campfire somewhere where it's high energy, I will literally throw picks into the crowd, and campers go wild. I have staff members now.
You're
I've been
living
doing
all
this
your
so
rock
long.
star fantasies.
I have staff members who will bring back the picks that they got as campers and like be like, "This is amazing."
So fun.
And occasionally, like, my license picture is on a pick, and like kids want those picks.
So
Yeah,
great.
it's brilliant because I don't like those picks. So So I will literally take the pick I'm playing
That's
with
amazing.
and stick it in my guitar hidden place, and then reach into my pocket while they're not paying attention and throw like the picks I've never played the guitar with, but they don't care. They just, it's a pick from the camp director, and I thought all camp directors did this. Is this not something all camp directors? You should.
More are going to start
I know they will now.
after this episode.
Step
More are gonna
one, I'm
start.
going to learn how to play the guitar. Step two.
It's not quite the same like at the end of the night for Vespers. It's nice and quiet, and you start whipping picks, hitting people in the face in the dark. Yeah. No.
My category defying tool is a keyboard shortcut. It's fun that we've talked about them a number of times today.
Oh, nice.
One that I use all the time on a Mac, and I don't know what the Windows equivalent is. My apologies. It is Command Tab. Will bring up all of the open apps that you have, and then you just hit tab until you get to the app you want and go back. So I was talking before about having one window open a browser and composing an email in another browser window. I can command tab back and forth between those over and over again. My goal is to not use the trackpad or mouse as much as possible because it's so much faster to just do stuff with the keyboard. And command tab is just one of those things I use hundreds of times a day, and I love it. Gab, do you have a category defier? One last thing.
Yeah, well, I've said this on the podcast before, but I'll re-say it because it brings joy. After the winter holidays, I go and get the Christmas lights, white Christmas lights that are on sale. So what we would call fairy lights, and have them at camp. Again, they would be mine. And there's always like a last minute, oh, if we only had, and I'm like, these fairy lights, these white, and just like white lights, it's exciting. It's almost as exciting as the picks being thrown into the stand.
Into your face. Yeah.
Into your face. But I always have sort of a box of these lights that I, hand off to a staff member. You can use this for your special cabin night. And they're so happy. And it costs very little. And just, around the holidays, just a couple, when things start to go on sale, I just grab a couple and then I have them for the summer and lend them out. And it brings so much happiness.
Pretty good. That's a great
Travis,
idea.
to go back to your tool,
Yes,
it's Alt Tab on Windows.
There you go.
There you go.
Life is fair for Windows and Mac people.
Finally.
Okay. I want to thank everybody for sharing those and for your thoughtful consideration of what you would present. To our listeners, we want to wish you happy holidays and a happy new year. Here's hoping 2021 is a whole different ballgame than 2020 was. But we certainly wish that you have a happy new year and you get some good restful time over the holidays, and thanks from your friends at the CampHacker podcast.
Yeah.
Chris, if people have some follow-up questions for you, how do they get in touch?
Well, easy. They could scream into the wind and I will appear. No, you can write me at chris@camphighlight.com. You can follow my camp on Instagram at camphighlight, or you can follow me on Instagram at planetchris1.
Perfect. Thank you. Gabz?
You can check out where I work at waro.com, OUAREAU, or you can message me on Instagram at Gabrielle Raill, and Raill takes 2 L's.
Excellent. Joe Richards.
You can find out all about what I do by thinking about it. And
oh, come on.
Stop
it now.
It's Christmas time.
We're almost done.
We're almost done.
People are going to think we were drinking during this podcast. It's the
who's to
punchiest.
say I haven't been.
Oh, come on, Joe, please.
But a year of punchiness.
Okay. Great. You can find out about everything I do at yoyojoe.com, YOYOJOE.com.
Excellent. Thank you, Joe. Much appreciated.
Anytime.
If
Chris Hudson.
What
he's
is
shouting
going
into the
on?
wind, waiting
I
for
was
Chris
shouting
to
it into
come.
the wind.
Here. I have a okay. Can we go?
Yes, please. If you enjoyed today's show, we would be so grateful if you would go to ratethispodcast.com/camp and leave us a rating there. That goes out to all of the places you can leave podcast ratings. We want to take a minute and thank our editor and producer, Matt Hansberger, for helping us get this episode and all of the episodes of the CampHacker podcast out this year. You can find Matt's show notes and all of our past tools of the week, including the tools of the week specials that we've done before, once again on camphacker.tv/podcast. Thanks for the evening, friends.